It's lights out and away we go. And Leclerc reacts very well, but Verstappen already alongside him. Lewis Hamilton ahead of Sergio Perez. Here into turn one we go. Charles Leclerc.
Hello, Formula One fans. Welcome back to Formula Pun Racer. Today is August 17th, 2022. You probably noticed a difference in background and lighting here. That's because I just recently bought myself a new ring light tripod to see if this is a better layout for my videos in the future. I hope you like it. Please tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll be happy to read all your comments and reviews of my videos. But right now, I'm here today to give you my review on the long overdue races of the French and Hungarian Grand Prix. And we'll start with the French Grand Prix, which occurred on the 24th of July at the Paul Ricard circuit. It all began with Monegasque driver Charles Leclerc on pole for the Ferrari and his biggest rival and championship leader Max Verstappen, the Flying Dutchman of Red Bull, starting second. As soon as the red lights went out, it was Leclerc who charged ahead, but half a lap later at one of the chicanes, it was not a good day for local boy Esteban Ocon in the Alpine Renault on this miserably hot day when he tangled with Yuki Tsunoda going in the corners. Tsunoda spun but continued. Ocon, on the other hand, had to endure a 5-second penalty as a result. Sacre bleu. No good luck for the local boy, non sérieux.
Esteban Ocon gets a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision and relegating Yuki Tsunoda to the back of the field.
While Yuki Tsunoda did continue on after that little tango with Ocon, his Scuderia AlphaTauri had to retire on lap 17 from the damage his car sustained in contacting Esteban Ocon's Alpine. One lap later on lap 18, after a dominant performance by Charles Leclerc and his Ferrari, the Italian stallion's chance of a third race win in a row went awry when his car spun and hit the tire barrier. Game over, and Leclerc's response on the radio you are about to hear tells it all.
I cannot get Vettel. No!
As a result of Leclerc's accident, the race was under caution, and the leading drivers pitted for fuel and tires. Max Verstappen of Red Bull had inherited the lead at this point, a lead he would never relinquish. Unfortunately for Ferrari's final hopes in Carlos Sainz Jr., it went from bad to worse when Carlos Sainz Jr. was unsafely released from his pit box right into the path of Williams driver Alexander Albon. Sainz, as a result, incurred a 5-second penalty, but the team didn't exactly tell him to come into the pits to serve his penalty until much later on, something he should have done much sooner. So this was basically costly, and some people say the team's strategists on how to handle it was pathetic, and I would have to agree being a Ferrari fan. Despite this, Carlos Sainz Jr. managed to finish in 5th after the penalty. Alexander Albon finished 13th. But once again, Max Verstappen would strengthen his points lead by winning the French Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes finished second, his first podium finish in 2022, and George Russell, his teammate, gave the Mercedes a double podium finish. And Sergio Perez of Red Bull finished 4th. So it was not a good day for the fans of Ferrari, and I'm sure we're all asking ourselves about the Italian stallion.
Why the long face?
Tough day for Ferrari in France, but it was not much better for Aston Martin, considering that the British Racing Green cars put on an amazing show on the final lap. Sebastian Vettel was hounding his own teammate Lance Stroll for that final points-paying position of 10th place, but in the end, the Canadian Lance Stroll was able to hold off his teammate Sebastian Vettel for 10th, and Sebastian Vettel came home in 11th. There's more to talk about the Aston Martin racing team later on in this video, but before I proceed on with that and my review of the Hungarian Grand Prix, I'd like to share some interesting and basically shocking news that occurred back on the 14th and 13th of August in Seoul, South Korea. On the 13th and 14th of August, the final doubleheader of the 2022 Formula E season began in Seoul, Korea, and it was an amazing duel between Mitch Evans of New Zealand driving for Jaguar and Stoffel Van Dorn to take the Drivers' Championship. Mercedes EQ seemed the most likely to take the manufacturer's title, which it did. But in the first of 2 rounds, it was Mitch Evans of Jaguar that took the race win, and no doubt about it, cats of the world can unite. And I'm sure my sister's cat Meatball is excited to see her British cousin win. Let's see what you have to say, Meatball. Well, at least compared to my sister's cat Meatball, I know another cat here who's more enthused about Jaguar when they win races. As a result of Mitch Evans' Jaguar winning the first of these last two races, he ended up becoming the runner-up in the Formula E Championship. Eduardo Mortara of Switzerland, driving for Rocket Venturi, won race 2, but in the end, Stoffel Van Dorn became the driver's champion of 2022 Formula E season, and his team, Mercedes EQ, has taken the Constructors' Championship. Jaguar still finishes 4th in points. And as a result of Audi saying goodbye to Formula E this year, I hope you enjoyed, like Audi fans that is, enjoyed watching them in a Formula E with Envision Racing. But now that Audi is out for good and turning towards Formula 1 in 2026, along with its sister manufacturer Porsche, well, let's just see what Envision will do when they switch to Jaguar powertrains for 2023. As a result, the British cat has doubled their chances of winning some races next year in addition to the Jaguar TCS racing team. So, let's see what the cat drags in.
And it's lights out and away we go, and it's a decent reaction from George Russell and also from Carlos Sainz, who covers over his teammate Charles Leclerc. Now that could give Lando Norris a bit of a movement as he tries to get down the inside. Russell ahead.
Well, from here on, I'm sure you're hungry to know about what happened in Formula 1 racing on the 31st of July in Budapest. Well, grab yourself a bowl of goulash and I'll tell you what happened when F1 raced in the country that gave us Eva Gabor, Hungary. It all started with George Russell of Great Britain driving for Mercedes, taking his first Formula 1 career pole. Charles Leclerc of Ferrari started second. And the lights went out. Russell pulled away, but the Ferraris of Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr. were hot on his heels for the next 30-so laps. By lap 31, Charles Leclerc was able to get by George Russell, and Max Verstappen, who had a bad qualifying start in 10th spot, was starting to claw his way up the leaderboard at this point. Unfortunately, though, despite the fact that for 9 laps Leclerc held the lead, when he took his pit on lap 40, his team foolishly decided to go from medium tires, which is a faster compound of tires, softer and stickier even though it wears faster, to harder compound, which wears slower, but it doesn't have much grip. And that was definitely costly for Charles Leclerc, to the point where Max Verstappen was about to overtake Charles Leclerc at one point. But then, in the penultimate turn of this lap, he lazily spun around just like Danny Sullivan did at Indianapolis in 1985 when hounding Mario Andretti. But the action wasn't over yet. For Ferrari, as Carlos Sainz pretty much fared the same situation. Bad strategy calls, which basically cost Ferrari once again. The difference, though, is that at least both Ferraris finished the race. So when all was said and done, Max Verstappen managed to claw his way all the way back up to the front of the field to take his 28th career victory, his second win in a row. And just like in France, the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell respectively finished second and third. So talk about history repeating itself back to back. From France and Hungary, the Red Bull has done it again. And since you can't make a beefy meal without a bull, it's true that for the Austrian team, the stakes were high. Considering how embarrassing it is for us Ferrari fans how the team strategist screwed everything up for their drivers Sainz and Leclerc in Hungary, the team now has a 97-point deficit in the Constructors' Championship behind Red Bull, and Max Verstappen has an 80-point lead over Charles Leclerc, so the Ferrari team has their work cut out for them. But if they can't do anything for the rest of the year, well then, I'm sure Randy Quaid has something to say about the team's strategy and how they run things.
And what do? We end up looking like a monkey.
This joke was too dirty to include.
Come to think of it, I'll bet if they replace the strategist with monkeys, as well as maybe have the monkeys drive the Ferrari instead of Sainz and Leclerc, who knows if that'd be a more competent decision. But then have a monkey in a Ferrari? They would just drive the team bananas. amazing odds that Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and George Russell finish 1, 2, 3, 2 races in a row, but also Aston Martin also finished in the same spots 2 races in a row in 10th and 11th. The only difference is, in Hungary, the positions were swapped. This time in Hungary, it was Sebastian Vettel who takes 10th and Lance Stroll 11th. There's more news to talk about Aston Martin racing in this video, as this thumbnail of the video indicates, but I'll get to that later. In other silly season news in F1, when the regulations in F1 change in 2026, this will open the door wide open for the Volkswagen Group marquees of Audi and Porsche to join. It'll be the first time for Audi to join in F1, and Porsche is hoping to provide power units to Red Bull Racing as well as Scuderia AlphaTauri. At present, the Red Bull Racing teams provide their own power units with technical support from Honda in all but name, so that's why the name Honda isn't present, but Honda will still continue to support the teams in all but name until 2025. At Team Williams, Alexander Albon of Thailand has managed to tie up an extension of his contract with Williams. But now on to Aston Martin Racing. I can say that Germany's Sebastian Vettel has announced last month that at the end of the 2022 season, he is going to retire from racing.
Say what?
Yeah, it's going to be a shame to see Seb go. But then, of course, he has 4 consecutive world championships in F1, all with Red Bull. His first F1 victory came in 2008 in Monza at the Italian Grand Prix when he was driving for Scuderia Toro Rosso, which used to be Minardi, which of course is now AlphaTauri. And who would have thought, his first win ever? 53 wins total. In his 4th and final year as a champion in 2013, he won 13 Grand Prix, totaling the exact same amount as Michael Schumacher when he won in 2004. The difference, though, is Sebastian Vettel also holds the distinction of winning the most consecutive races, 9 of them. And like in 2013, he wins 13 races, 9 of them were consecutive. So I'm sure that's where he got his fortune. And for him to retire makes sense because, like, the logistics of jumping from country to country to maintain going to races and racing them is just getting impractical for him. And he believes in supporting nature and helping the Earth tackle climate change, and I applaud him for that. I definitely applaud him for the fact that last year at Silverstone, he and his team stuck around to clean up trash after the race was over. They weren't quick to leave. They actually did something to clean up the Earth in certain spots. I do the same thing whenever I go to the Indianapolis 500. I don't hurry to get out when the race is over. I stick around to collect soda cans myself because to make the environment look good, and, well, it's good money at the scrap dealer. But he also presented like hotels for bees, or hives as we call them, in Austria last year and this year. If you remember my earlier video for the Austrian GP, I showed you a special picture of him with his helmet that had bees on it. Quite a buzz that was. So supporting the Earth's environment and spending more time with his wife and 3 kids, I can see how important that is to you, Sebastian Vettel. And I support and applaud you in your causes for the future, and I'm sure it's going to be a great one. Nonetheless, we will miss you in Formula One, but we wish you well in your future endeavors, in your activism to help the environment. Auf Wiedersehen, Seb. So, of course, you're going to wonder, who's going to replace the 4-time world champion at Aston Martin, you ask? Well, obviously, Lance Stroll isn't going anywhere since Daddy-O Larry-O runs the show. It's going to be, oh, you're in for a big surprise, 2-time world champion from Spain, Fernando Alonso. Yeah, I'm just as surprised as much as you are. You're probably wondering, why would the Spaniard leave the Enstone-based French team, Renault, for the British-based Aston Martin racing team? Well, despite the fact that the French team Renault gave him his biggest break, in fact, with Hungary just passed recently, I can say that, to make things come full circle, Fernando Alonso won his first race in Hungary in this car here, the Renault R23. And then 2 years later, he became the first Spanish driver to win the Formula One World Championship with Renault, and he did it again the following year in 2006. As a bonus, winning on home soil for the first time was also a delight. Then in 2007, he moved to McLaren for 1 year before returning to Renault for 2008 and 9 with not much luck. Then by 2010 to 2013, he moved to Ferrari. And he would win in Spain 2 more times, in 2012 at Valencia and then 2013 again at Barcelona, which was in fact Fernando's latest F1 win thus far. He also raced in the 2017 Indianapolis 500, becoming Rookie of the Year and leading a few laps for Andretti Autosport before his engine quit. Didn't have much luck though racing at Indy in 2020, but he finished that race at least. And so, at the end of the season, he will be leaving Alpine Renault for Aston Martin, and you're naturally wondering, why is that? Well, for the Spaniard, the Alpine Renault team was only going to offer him a 1-year contract extension, which didn't seem to fit well with Fernando's liking, as he still wanted to keep racing, despite the fact he's over 40 years old now. And the Renault team thought he was too old for their taste, so apparently on top of that, Lawrence Stroll, the billionaire who runs Aston Martin, offered him a bigger contract extension to race for Aston Martin and a bigger salary too. So what's not to like? Because in F1, money is the biggest driver in keeping drivers in the car seats. So it's a business, and that's what Formula One is all about. And that is why we will see a Spaniard replacing Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin next year. So we wish you luck, Senor Alonso, at Aston Martin. Here's hoping your expertise and the setups of these cars will become a winning combination for all the British fans of Aston Martin to see, as well as all your fellow Spaniards too. In other F1 news, things have gotten really crazy, as you know, at McLaren and Indy cars, with Alex Palou being strangled by both McLaren and Ganassi in terms of where the Spaniard's going to go. Is it going to be Ganassi Indy cars, McLaren Indy cars, or possibly McLaren F1? That is to be decided at this point as the quarrel continues. But on top of that, it turns out that while Fernando Alonso is out at Alpine Renault, who's going to replace him at the French team to be Ocon's teammate? That is to be decided at this point. It was thought to be Australian driver Oscar Piastri, who has raced for Alpine Renault in Formula 2 and 3. But surprise, surprise, Piastri isn't going to race in Alpine, but he's going to be replacing Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren next year.
Shut up!
So where does that leave Daniel Ricciardo? Who knows? Because apparently, despite the fact that Daniel Ricciardo gave McLaren its latest F1 victory at last year's Italian Grand Prix at Monza, with Lando Norris finishing second, the results that he's been delivering in 2022 were not to McLaren's liking, so they're forced to hop out that kangaroo to replace him with another. I just hope that Oscar Piastri can qualify well alongside Lando Norris in 2023. Yeah, it has been a real silly season, hasn't it? Contract extensions here or terminations that. Christian Lundgaard's contract at Rahal Letterman Lanigan in IndyCars has been extended, but one contract in NASCAR that's not being extended at all is KyleBusch with his longtime team Joe Gibbs Racing, and at this point, Kyle doesn't seem to have a ride at this point for next year, so here's hoping, even though I don't usually follow NASCAR, but it's definitely something that got my attention. I wish you luck in the future, Kyle, and Daniel, in your respective sanctions of racing, that you can get a ride and hopefully win some races. Well, if you're wondering when is the next F1 round, it is here, August 28th at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. Let's see if Max Verstappen can reign supreme again for a second year in a row, even though last year was a complete washout, literally. Rain that wouldn't let up, and there was practically no race run. But all that can change as those cars streak through the Ardennes forest at over 200 miles per hour in one of the most popular racing circuits in Europe. Can Max Verstappen extend his points lead as well as Red Bull, or can Ferrari actually claw their way back to closing the gap once again. Tune in to find out, and thanks for watching my videos, everyone. If you like, please subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. To Formula Pun Racer, I'll see you all in the next video. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.